we're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram newspaper managing editor Ashraf Al-Ashry. Mr. Ashraf, thank you so much for joining us on Qnews. And first off, Egypt and Qatar have intensified their diplomatic efforts to salvage the Gaza ceasefire deal. How did they do this? How did they overcome the barriers to advancing the Gaza ceasefire agreement?
Of course, during the past few days and even today morning, Egypt has negotiated with the Hamas delegation who visited Egypt. These negotiations between Hamas and Cairo discussed the different new approaches that might lead to solving the obstacles in the light of the Israeli restrictions regarding giving access to humanitarian aid and transferring the injured from Gaza to Cairo to receive treatment. Here came the coordination with Qatar and the US to prevail the state of calmness to achieve the first phase of the ceasefire agreement. Here Egypt took advantage of its relation with Hamas and US to practice pressure to solve the excuses Israel is making to obstacle the humanitarian aid access to the Gaza Strip, including the tents and camps, and to allow a large number of injured Gazans to be transferred into Egypt to receive treatment. Israel has been exerting all efforts possible to achieve the Trump's threat on Saturday to open the doors of hell if they do not release the hostages. With the coordination with Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East, we have reached a consensus to release the 3 hostages by Hamas. Egypt released a press release, and as well as Hamas to release the 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian detainees from Israeli prisons in 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Now, in light of the humanitarian aid, mobile homes are currently en route to Gaza. And if you can expand more on the type of humanitarian supplies that are being lined up at the Rafah border crossing currently.
Of course, there are a lot of humanitarian aid provided by Egypt and others by the United Nations, a lot of food, water, in addition to oil and petroleum to operate the electricity plants and hospitals, the sanitation plants, and as well as the electricity generators in Gaza, because most places are heavily destructed, such as the north and the center. A lot of different kinds of tents and camps and mobile homes to provide residential places to the Palestinians, in addition to mobile homes that will play an integral role to provide prevention and protection to the Palestinians on different rounds. The first round of mobile homes will be entered today after the Israeli rejection to give access to these mobile homes for 25 days. This will requires a power to respect the humanitarian protocol signed in Doha to enter large amounts of mobile homes. You know, there are tens of thousands of captives in this winter under the heavy rains that Gaza is witnessing right now. So it's a must to enter these mobile homes and trucks carrying strong tents to protect the Palestinian population from the rain and the cold in these critical times.
Now, in light of the upcoming Arab Summit to be held in Cairo on the 27th of this month, what role will it play in addressing the situation in Gaza?
Of course, this summit will handle the will not handle the negotiations of Egypt and Doha. These negotiations are only about the two mediators in addition to the United States. The agenda will tackle first rejecting the scheme to displace the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and to form a barrier to prevent any kind of relocation and form a united front by Egypt, Jordan and other Arab nations to reject the Trump scheme even inside the United States and Israel. And I think Israeli leadership expressed that these schemes are mere imagination and fictional ideas. That's why we are going to coordinate with the international community for a unified front to face this proposition. The second item on the agenda will be turned into an Arab initiative for the Gaza reconstruction and forming a fund for the Gaza reconstruction. Egypt has a great plan, as stated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs the day before yesterday. The plan includes 3 to 5 years, and there will be reconstruction efforts starting from Palestinian Rafah, going through center and then the north, which will require an international conference which is being planned by Egypt in coordination with the Arab nations, and inviting also members from the international community including China and Russia to have a rejecting position to the Trump proposition and forming an Arab, Egyptian and international power to reject the idea of relocating the Gazan population, in addition to the settlement for a peace process in the second day after the truce's completion. These are the three items on the summit agenda.
Now, Mr. Ashraf, the foreign ministers of Egypt and Bahrain have met in Paris and they discussed the arrangements of the upcoming Arab summit to be held this month. What were the key outcomes of these discussions?
This was a very important meeting because Bahrain was head of the plenary Arab League session that is to be held next April in Iraq. But this is an emergency summit which was an area of discussion between Cairo and Manama to discuss extending invitations to different Arab nations and setting the items of the agenda. And there will be a preparatory meeting for Arab ministers of foreign affairs to agree on the agenda item. It will be It was a coordinating meeting to coordinate the proceedings of the next Arab summit, as well as the Islamic summit after this one, to create a momentum to support the Egyptian Jordanian stance rejecting the relocation. And I think this coordination will continue till the convening of this conference to provide a momentum and an Arab pressure to force the US and Israeli to give up on this proposition to relocate the Gazan population, because it's never can take place. The outcomes will be most prominent of the outcomes will be rejecting the Trump proposition and the Gaza reconstruction in coordination with the United Nations and the Arab League.
Now, speaking of the Jordanian stance, how does Jordan's rejection of land annexation and Palestinian displacement further the collective Arab stance against these issues?
Of course, the Jordanian stance is unwavering since day one. When Trump proposed the relocation, he chose Egypt and Jordan as neighboring countries to the Palestinian lands. The Jordanian stance is the same as the Egyptian. They have the same outcomes, the same positions, the same political statements, and the same type of coordination. There were communications between the President Sisi and King Abdullah of Jordan to reject any kind of displacement. The Trump position is rejected, and this rejection will be activated in the next Arab summit to be held in Cairo. Jordan rejects any kind of displacement for Palestinians, and there were demonstrations to welcome King Abdullah, which is the same position, who adopts the same position as President Sisi, to reach a peace settlement for the Palestinian cause and reject any type of annexation or to kill the Palestinian cause. The Trump's idea is a dream that will never come true.
From Cairo, that was Al-Ahram newspaper managing editor Ashraf Al-Ashry. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News and for all the information you provided us with.